Let's now continue with a round of questions. Let's first do one question for the panel, and then we can go on with questions from the audience. We already discussed quite a bit about, or you have presented your challenges, but if you could mention the main challenge or the main problem or the main pitfall you've made and you have been dealing with. Let's start then all the way from the back with Magda. In the Baltic Sea region, in terms of sustainability, because your situation is a little bit different from the others, but in general in sustainability, what has been your main challenge there?
Yeah, I would say the fact that indeed it is Baltic Sea region as we call it, but these are 8 different countries. And of course the legal situation and the regulations, they may be quite similar, but in the end there are some differences. And maybe it's not a huge challenge because the overall willingness to cooperate and to overcome this challenge is, I think, far more bigger than the fact that we do face this challenge. But in the end, yeah, if there are some legal obstacles into being more sustainable at some point, meaning imposing law on, let's say, lowering the carbon footprint in some industry, this means that one country can go further and the others need to take a step back maybe and wait a little bit. So sometimes this could be challenging, but in the end I think the great power is the fact that we still try to act as a region, and we know that, as I said, it's the Baltic Sea that unites us. So if it's dirty on one side, it's going to be dirty to all 8 countries. So it's our common goal to make sure that we preserve the nature and we take care of the tourism and we make it more sustainable in the whole region, not only in one country.
Thank you. In Austria, Katrin, what has been the most important challenge you think you're facing in getting the whole industry together, implementing that approach?
I think the first big challenge was actually to create a common language. If you ask 20 people what sustainability is, you probably get 25 answers. And I think it's very important to overcome that, also to overcome actually individual egos. So I always did it that way. I know it best. Let's sit together and talk about what we want as a country on the national perspectives and what that means. But for having that done efficiently, speak the same language. And that's probably the biggest challenge, because it's a huge field of action when it comes to sustainability, and getting everybody on board and getting everybody on the right board. Is a challenge, I would say.
And how have you overcome that challenge? What was the solution? Like communication or branding?
Talking. It's, I mean, I would really say there is a very initiative idea, but I do believe that the greatest innovation still is communication. And you have to do it. And of course, you can do it on different channels and on different levels, all that, but nothing is working without communication.
Great. Imbil, for you, you already mentioned
Yes, yeah, we have the same challenge about awareness raising, but we just recently had a survey among our businesses. It was the first sustainability survey on a national level where 550 businesses were involved, and we got really comprehensive view what is going on in the hospitality sector and what are the expectations. And in a way we also got confirmation for the things what we already knew. But one of them was also that the small businesses, how to involve them to sustainability work, because when you present the Green Key label, they are a little bit afraid. I would say without the reason, but they are afraid of international labels. They were like, I would like, where to start was the main question what they asked, and I'm so happy that they are more and more asking the questions. They are not asking why should I do it, but they are asking how can I, And this is a change that have happened during the last years. And we developed a self-assessment tool, what we tested on businesses, and we've got really nice feedback from the testing that they were discovering, oh, this is sustainability. Oh, I'm doing this. I never thought that this is sustainability. And giving the good feedback for businesses so that they will get more encouraged to continue the way. So I really hope that this self-assessment tool that we've developed will help businesses to onboard to sustainability journey, and they will get more, because also what came out from the testing was that they got some good new ideas. Oh, I should do this and that as well. And it's easy. It's 15 minutes for a business to go it through and get confirmation. I'm doing the right things already, and get some ideas what to do next.
So it's really to make the barrier to enter into a certification a little bit lower.
Yeah, to make it easy and easily, the starting point has to be easy to grab, and then you make the interest, and then it's not that impossible and big science.
Great, thanks. Hey, Masha, you said in Slovenia Green has been already there for 8 years. So have you experienced some challenging now that you've matured into a longer existing program? What are those challenges?
Yeah, I think we are now experiencing even more problems than before when it started, because when it started, it was relatively easy to start because it was the green scheme was a ready-to-use tool, so that was one big advantage, and the destinations applied, and there was some support from the ministry. So, you know, in the first year we had 10 destinations, then 20, and today we have 59. But then, with these 59 destinations, we are seeing some challenges, and I think the main one at the moment is how to reflect all of their actions in everyday tourism life of Slovenia. So how do you translate this certification scheme and everything that the destinations are doing behind the scenes, you know, in terms of management of infrastructure and so on? How do you translate that to the visitor who comes to Slovenia so that he will perceive Slovenia as a green country, not just greenwashing by the Slovenian Tourism Board, if I say it very crudely. I think the first thing that we need to do here is attract more businesses, as my colleagues have already mentioned, because in Slovenia we do have about 240 businesses who are members of the scheme, and new ones are entering every week. But if you translate that into percentages, it's only a bit over 1% of all accommodation facilities in Slovenia, which is nothing. So this is a huge challenge, and also I think related to that is communication, as Imbi said, because when we approach businesses, and I do a lot of sessions at conferences by presenting Slovenia Green to our restaurants, our accommodation association, hotel associations, and so on. And some of them do enter, but a lot of them ask, what's in it for me? So I would really like to change this thinking, like if I do this certification, what are you as the Slovenian Tourism Board give to me? What will be my reward? But it's not only about the reward, they should start thinking about doing it for themselves, because it's better, because it saves you costs and energy and so on. Not just that you should do it because you will get more marketing out of it, because also our resources at the Slovenian Tourism Board are limited. I think this is the perception that we need to change. But also Anna Pollock was talking about it yesterday. I think this is the hardest thing to change, this collective mindsets and behavior. And also vice versa with the destinations. Sometimes they are really working on sustainability a lot, we would like them to be even more rewarded for their efforts, because sometimes when you have an objective national standard, you cannot award them in the way that you want, because it's objective and it's the same for everyone, and that's a very good thing in my opinion. But I think we should find a way to award them even more and to motivate them, because in the end it's all about motivating people.
Yeah, I can imagine after 8 years some destinations can lose motivation. Is that something you're noticing, or that from the destinations that have been in the program already since the beginning, like Ljubljana and Black?
Yeah, not really. I wouldn't say they're losing motivation. They just need a different approach, maybe, because yeah, losing motivation. It's not the problem, because most of Slovenian destinations are in the scheme. So in Slovenia, it's either or you're in the scheme or you lose a lot of advantages, also in terms of financing and so on, which might seem a bit of I don't know, a bit of an army-like approach, but it is working, and it is something that is working. So if you have no other approach, also this is a good way to go. So I wouldn't say they're losing motivation, not at all, but there are problems with smaller destinations, for example, because the standard is made the same for all destinations, and Slovenia is a bit specific because it's a small country, and we have half of destinations that are, you know, towns and cities and bigger ones, and then we have also smaller destinations who cannot live up to some criteria because they just don't have the infrastructure. They want to, and they do a lot of these nice little projects that are making a difference, but they just cannot be graded good on all of the criteria because they are too small.
Too small for. Can you mention examples? What is difficult? The monitoring, or what is the infrastructure?
For example, already in the Green Destination Standard, you have the sixth chapter that is about tourism management and working with businesses, and then we have some tiny little destinations that only have 5 accommodation facilities in the whole destination. So when they have to organize training for them, it's always very complicated, because how you have to call every single one of them, and then you have to get 5 people to come, and you need to find, you know, presenters and educators to only talk to those 5 people, and a lot of them don't understand sustainability, they don't think it's important. So now we are encouraging them to connect with other destinations that are around them, but then again, this is also something we found, that tourism is not a separate sector, which we all know, but it is very much related to infrastructure, traffic, energy infrastructure, and so on. And all of this is made in the unit of one municipality. So sometimes it is difficult to connect a lot of municipalities to develop tourism together, because municipalities are first and foremost political structures. So if politically they don't want to cooperate, you won't get them to cooperate in tourism matters, and then it's a vicious circle.
Thank you. We can go on forever. But Liisa, in Finland, what has been your most important challenge?
I think that our biggest challenge has been a little bit different one. That we had a really good engagement and a really good welcoming feeling when we got started, because we kind of when we got started, we took all the stakeholders on board, and we heard, everyone was heard. So there was a voice of environment there. So for example, the wildlife and parks. So those looking after the protected lands were there. So there were, for example, a Sami parliament. So the indigenous communities' voice was there. Certification bodies, UNESCO sites, DMOs, businesses, many voices were there. But what was missing was the data wizards and those digital experts who could have already told us in the beginning that what should we do then that we could have the data and knowledge what we have today. So we have gone through quite a learning curve and learned in the worst way. And it has also been quite an expensive roller coaster, because you learn from your mistakes, and suddenly you have to start learning about digitalization jargon, and become a data analytic and so on. Luckily the solutions are there, so that's not the problem. But when you don't know that you need solutions, or what solutions, you don't know what to actually ask. So that has definitely sometimes slowed down our process. I was showing today the data from our indicators. We should have had that data already a couple of years ago, but we had it this year. Is the first year that we can actually start basing our decision on those, what the data tells us, because this is really important, you know, when you need to know your strength, but you need to know your weaknesses to develop the industry. We do have a solution now that we have newly formed organization, our team actually exists on sustainable development, digital development, and business intelligence. So now we have the voices of data and digitalizations there as well, so hopefully we don't go rock bottom with these topics anymore, but it's all upward.
So a regional or a national organization in the room here who would like to embark on this, like data gathering, what would you recommend them to do? Work with a partner or get your data architecture in place first, or how to avoid that costly
Yeah, well, having that data architecture in place is a good start, but also to realize that it's not just only important that you have data. You need to analyze that data, and you need to offer it to the businesses and to the DMOs in a right format. So it doesn't mean that you have an Excel sheet of numbers. It needs to be like something that works, like especially if you're a small business, and at least in Finland, 90% of the tourism businesses are small businesses. They don't have time to start analyzing some numbers on an Excel sheet, but, you know, give bullet points.
A dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely, to start, for example, for a destination, you have to have a really good understanding of what is the data you need, that what you really must have. There is a must-have data and then the nice-to-have data. Start with the must-have and then takes those wizards who can help you to kind of like put together the format of how you can collect it and how you can report it and also to analyze it to have the full cycle ready.
Beautiful. Any questions from the other panelists about the data or that you had concerning the presentations of the other panelists?
I would love to copy Finnish system one day. We need to work with that.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of these national schemes, that, you know, that we can copy with pride from each other, and we can share the experiences and try not to make the same mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that it's really important that we have these cool cats here that are happy to share their the good lessons.
All right, before we go on further discussions here, let's hear from the room. Is there questions for any of the panelists that have been giving presentations? I see your hand there in the back. That's a long walk, so.
Just wondering about one thing. You talked, Andreas from Blue Contact in Germany. You talked about the challenge to onboard people to your schemes, which is a big challenge, I perceive. But I wonder if you have enough, and you are some people, you have enough actors in the scheme. How do you involve them even better? How do you keep them on the scheme? What are your good advices for that? Because that's also a challenge I perceive, to have good tools to really involve them even better and have them on board and inspired and go on. Because sometimes I feel there is a certain boring aspect of if you do it for 5 or 10 years. Maybe some of the destinations working longer with that can have some ideas about that. Thanks so much.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
I think that we all have some ideas on that. Well, you know, I don't know if this translates well, but in Finland we have this saying that give carrot or stick. So you can motivate with both ways. And one of the ways that what motivates, for example, the businesses is that you get more visibility. I can't guarantee, or we can't guarantee for every single business that what kind of visibility they get, but we're kind of like making it the default. So little by little, we eliminating from our promotions those that are not in our national scheme. So you kind of like, as a business or destination, have to make the decision, do I want to be on board or not? And if I want to be on board, if I want to be part of like national tourism, sales and marketing, then you are on board. And if you want to drop, then you are out of it and you are alone. But it's not only us doing that, it's the DMOs doing the same. So they are also setting the same criteria that if you want to be a member of our tourism community and our business network, you have to be in the scheme. But that's why I think that it's really important that you have this ecosystem of your stakeholders, because it's the same, those who are funding, they also said that, well, what about there is these national tourism goals? So are you in this national scheme? Because then it's easier to get funding. And it's also your partners. Tour operators are asking that, or those in your value chain. So the pressure comes from many sides, and that makes it economic choice to stay on board.
Yeah, and if I speak for Slovenia, I think the pressure is not just coming from the DMMOs, but from the European policies, because I think in general these global policies are going towards the greener future. Now, of course, there's a lot of talking about that, and maybe it's not as restrictive as we would want it to be, but I think in general, in Europe, in Slovenia, in reporting, in the banking world, it's all going towards sustainability. So even in Slovenia, for example, or in Europe in general, you can get better loans from banks if you are working in a sustainable way. So I think very soon it won't be the question of motivation or carrots, but it will become a default and a must. And I think that is very, very important. I think this is a good way of doing things. And in Slovenia, also just on national or on local level, we have some very concrete advantages for destinations who are in the scheme. For example, at the Slovenian Tourism Board, every year we provide financing for communication activities of our main destinations, and they can get more money if they have a better Slovenia Green label. So if they have Slovenia Green Destination Platinum label, they can get 20,000 euros more instead of with just the bronze label. So, and then they get access to different trainings and so on. So yes, I think it is important, to give them some advantages, but mostly they should want to act in this direction, because it's soon going to be law on every level.
Wasn't it also in the like ITB fairs that those destinations are given more prominent locations in booths and etc.?
Yeah,
so it's not only financial, but can
no,
also be...
No, it's not only financial, because the main job of the Slovenian Tourism Board up until recent years has been promotion and communication. Now it's becoming development also more and more, but what we can give destinations, it's promotion. So yes, also at different fairs in the media, we are trying to push green destinations more, also because it's good for our image, because maybe that's one part of success of Slovenia Green, because it is implemented in the national image. So it is something that we want to be known by, and these destinations are helping us create this image.
How about in Estonia?
We also give priority for sustainable label owners, and with the self-assessment tool that we started up this year, we want the tool be as a default tool for all our services, so that if we are organizing, for example, a FAM tour, then the destination who is putting up the program will also include this self-assessment tool as a must for a service provider, so that we know that what the service provider already does. So this is also the information for us. We can talk to the FAM tour already in the way to the destination. What are the businesses doing in regard to sustainability? So self-assessment tool as a first step, but we also integrate sustainability in our grants. So it's not possible to get any grants longer without being online with sustainability. We are not able to ask labels from everyone, but still they can't get grants that are against sustainability principles.
Thank you. In Austria?
Well, maybe also addressing you, Andreas, directly, and you probably might know that anyhow, so in Austria it's a bit different because we don't have a national scheme compared to the STF or Slovenia Green. Of course, we also do work with recommendations for good labels and certifications, I would say now, but in general, I think it's the role of each and everybody to also motivate the others. Having us on a national level motivate destinations motivating their businesses, and vice versa. So if you have a destination where you have super ambitious businesses, I also do believe that then maybe the destination might think, so okay, that's an amazing starting point that others are fighting for, so let's get into this together. And I think that's how it can work. Of course, there are some benefits that we also put the pioneers on stage, that we really integrate them also a little bit better in our B2C communication if they're doing things good. And I think that's an added value, but I really hope that's not the main motivation for them to act sustainably, because then we would have a problem, actually. So, yeah, but I think bringing them together and let them motivate each other, and hopefully we're then just there and kind of orchestrating things and, connecting people, more or less.
Great. And finally, Magda from the Baltic Sea region, what's your experience?
I may add two things that has already been said. So one thing is the funding and the fact that already now in many EU programs, the Care for Sustainability, the fact that you use the green procurement and many other things, they are like integrated into the program, which means that anyone who wants to go for EU-funded project needs to comply with these rules. And like on policy area tourism, what we can do is to make sure that everyone is aware of that. We support them in obtaining information. We tell them where you already comply with this and that, you know, and this is a good funding scheme for you. So maybe we can help you find partners in Baltic Sea region or even beyond, because there are also other strategies within Europe and we connect with them and support people. So like, the thing is, on our side, like to take a little bit of the burden that they have from their shoulders. And this also goes to, for instance, data. As Lisa already said, they don't have time to filter the data. So if there is any situation where we know where we can obtain the data or like give them some bullet points, we will do that so that they feel more comfortable and they can focus on what they're doing on a daily basis. And in the end, it's all about convincing people that it is our future, and it's like, you know, something that should be normal, this new normal to all of us, and soon this will be just a fact. So we just make it easier for them, this transition, so to say, if possible.
Thank you. I hope that responded to the question. I see a thumb coming up, so okay. Any other questions on, well, 6 beautiful examples of national, regional approaches.
Are you counting yourself in? Because you said 6.
Oh, sorry. Good one. I don't see any other questions coming up right now, but feel free to go. Otherwise, I had a question on the role of branding and communication. How we see Slovenia has put their quite a big effort in a positive and successful effort in adding a branding component. Maybe start again here with Lisa. How have you been approaching that, and have you also added that as a component, or what's your plans for the future on that?
Yeah, so the branding of our program has never really been the core. It's more like that there is a symbol that you can identify, that it's made easy to identify those that take sustainability seriously. And of course, it's like something, and it's a communication tool for the entire industry in Finland, because the destinations and businesses are using it. So the more you see the same labels, the more easier it becomes to recognize it. But it's not been like never our core that we built the brand around it. It's more that our country image, it's built around sustainability. So sustainability is integrated in everything we do, in all the decisions we make, instead of branding the program. But also it works us as a criteria. So we don't necessarily, let's say that we have some small campaign or articles that we post some nice things to do in October in Finland or something. So those that we put there, who we suggest where to go, we choose because they have Sustainable Travel Finland label. And of course they have a cool thing to do in October. But we don't necessarily even talk about sustainability. We don't necessarily even show the label. It's the criteria for us.
And what was your idea to do that, to not always show the label? Is it becoming from the market that are not necessarily enticed to buy that? Or is there thoughts of greenwashing or like afraid that that's counterproductive sometimes? So what's your experience with that?
Experience that why we decided to prioritize these, or how do you mean that?
To not always show the label, for example.
Okay. Well, it's not about the fear of greenwashing or anything, but sometimes it's just not suitable for the context. So if if you're promoting some horseback riding options in trails of Finland, it's not always necessary to be that enjoy sustainable trails in Finland. There are many other ways of how you can describe what is sustainable. So it's just not always, and I think that we always sometimes just get enough of it. Sustainable this and sustainable that, and then you're kind of like, is it really sustainable? Sometimes it's kind of fresh to read about something, something else, and sometimes it's a good strategy just to avoid the S word as well. But we don't have any conscious decision that we would hide the symbol. So if we promote there, let's say, these nice horseback ridings, I really want to go horseback riding now. So of course the symbol is there when we are referring to a certain company, but that's not the core. That's not the thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think even I am sometimes sick of the word sustainability. I think it's more of the B2B word. It shouldn't be B2C. Like in promotion, when I'm speaking maybe to to other audiences, not the tourism experts, I prefer to use the words responsible tourism or tourism that is respectful of environment and society, because sustainability is, you can hear it everywhere all the time. Even from transport companies, not just in tourism, and maybe it just became a bit bland, in my opinion. So I think in Slovenia we are trying to equal sustainability to quality, and as Liisa said, you should push more, experiences that you know to be sustainable, but without mentioning that they are sustainable, that they are just high quality experiences which are inclusive of nature and where locals participate. So I think we should communicate this in a more concrete, hands-on way, not just talking about sustainable this and sustainable that, because to me it's stopped making sense in a way. I just wanted to mention that in Slovenia, actually, the green scheme was at first set up as a developmental program, but as a program that would also support our communication activities, because we wanted to position Slovenia as a green, authentic country, and even our logo, I Feel Slovenia, which is owned by our government, so it's not just the tourism logo, it's in this green, so this is sort of our national color. We wanted this program to really support all of our communications, so that when we would say Slovenia is a green country, we have this green color in all of our communications. It's not just greenwashing, but we are saying that Slovenia is green, green because 59 of our destinations are abiding by this strong international standard that is very, very demanding, and not everybody can just get the Slovenia Green label, and some destinations have lost it and gained it again, so we're not just handing it out, and we see this as a very strong support of our communication activities.
Thank you. How about in Estonia, and currently and in the future? What's your ideas?
Yes, in Estonia we developed Visit Estonia brand story and strategy for 2 years ago, and the focus topics were nature, culture and food. But last year we added a layer, the sustainability first mindset into the strategy. Ryan will talk about that in the afternoon session at the marketing, what challenges and questions we had in this process. But we also added a curating part for the brand story, so that all the hospitality sector who is welcome to use the brand story can have advice how to do it and guidelines for that. But what I wanted to say that the sustainability first mindset, what is described in our brand story, is something what we discussed a lot. We wanted to make it as easy to understand and as simple. Ryan will talk about the definitions and our struggles there, but it is kind of a difficult topic for when we want to talk to the end customers, and I'm totally sharing the opinion that sometimes you don't reach far with just talking about sustainability. You have to talk about food, culture and nature, what we agreed, and integrate sustainability and make sure that the services that or experience that we offer, then they will be all sustainable experiences. This is the main aim for integrating sustainability into the brand story. And it takes time. It all takes time to implement it into real life. I thought it goes much easier, but I have to be patient with that.
I really think that it's just like you also both were saying, that it's the actions that talk.
Yeah.
It's the actions, it's the food, it's the kind of food that talks, instead of saying that this is sustainable food.
Yep.
And where it comes from, where it's sourced.
Yeah, it's much more interesting, because then you said, okay, this is sustainable, but what does it mean in your country or in this restaurant? But if I'm here and, we've been talking about Baltic Sea, so, then your expectation is that it's from the Baltic Sea, if you hear that it's sustainable.
I just wanted to add that, so at the Slovenian Tourism Board, we have this Slovenia Green label more in the development way, but we also have another label, the Slovenia Unique Experiences, which is strictly meant for B2C communication, to communicate the best authentic experiences of Slovenia to end customers. And we set those criteria up ourselves. At the moment, we have about 20 or 30 such experiences. And one of the most important groups of criteria is about sustainability. So in the base, they have to be very, very sustainable, but we never communicate this characteristic outwards. We always present these experiences as the most authentic, unique, locally based that Slovenia can offer, and this already means that they are respectable of nature and culture, and local culture, and so on. So I think this is one good way of presenting such experiences.
Beautiful. In Austria, and there's not such a situation that you have a scheme or a label that's national, so...
No. And we also did decide against having a sustainability campaign, for example, simply because I do believe that sustainability in Austria should never be versus winter in Austria, versus summer in Austria, versus culture in Austria. So sustainability should be integrated in whatever topic that we are playing. Just because that's also what our visitors can experience here. And of course, you can show in your communication towards P2C consumers, what is, and now call it especially sustainable, but just show some highlights to make them also aware of, not only for promotion issues, but also for education issues. For example, telling people, hey, skiing holidays. And skiing holidays is a big issue, simply because people have a certain image about winter holidays in their mind, really showing them what is all done, what are the innovative ideas behind it, what is the whole hospitality structure, giving those examples, working with mobility ideas. And I do believe also, like, and I think you mentioned Anna's talk yesterday with the change of mindset. I think it's the hardest change to be done. And if, for example, now a family coming from, I don't know, Belgium, the Netherlands, to Austria, by car, and then not using the car for the whole week just because it's not necessary. Maybe for the next time they will think about, do they actually have to go by car, or can they take the train? So really proving them that they could act differently on holidays because the holiday destination provides those offers. And giving those ideas, I think that's what we are doing when it comes to communication, simply showing what Austria has to offer and how everybody can benefit from that. So not only the visitors, but also the locals.
Thank you. Magda,
Yeah, so when we think about the Baltic Sea region, of course, there is no unified brand for the whole region. But when I close my eyes, when I think tourism in the Baltic Sea region, I see green landscapes, I see sandy beaches, I see a great appreciation to cultural and historical heritage. I smell tasty food, and I would say that every of the 8 countries that surrounds the Baltic Sea region has exactly these features in their strategies, and this is what are their tourism priorities. And this is because this is how we are in the Baltic Sea region, and this is very authentic, I would say. That's how it's been happening here when it comes to tourism for many years. It's a slow tourism, it's like just enough for us. People actually take into consideration green transport. They cycle a lot along the Baltic Sea region. They hike a lot. We do have this really great appreciation for nature-based tourism. And I think what we just need to do is to stay authentic. Like you said, the actions speak louder than words, and it is all probably under this sustainability buzzword umbrella, but that's not the most important. If we feel it inside and we show it outside out, I imagine that in the end, the tourists would also be attracted to that because they know what is false, they know what is real, and they really want to enjoy this real and authentic experience. And this is what you find in every Baltic Sea region country.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a mention about that authentic, and then coming back to this ski holiday experience. That's why I think that it should be really authentic, the communication, instead of focusing on the sustainability, like the S word. Like you mentioned the ski holidays, and immediately my mind was taking me out in the wilderness. There is nothing else than me and the ski tracks. There is maybe some wilderness hut that I can seek for warmth if I like, and I can choose just no one else. Then I was thinking, Austria, ski holidays.
It's not what you had in mind.
I mean, so it's probably downhill skiing and some after parties and completely like different. So yes, stick to the authenticity and what it means in your country's context instead of the S words. And actually the ski resorts in Finland, they've been highly involved in the Sustainable Travel Finland label, and we have many programs, we have many resorts labeled, but also their approach has been so different because they are all about protecting winters. That, you know, that it's such beloved hobby in our countries, and we are starting to see winters, even in Finland, in the southern part of Finland, we're starting to see winters that there is no permanent snow, that it kind of goes and comes, and we have like first generation of children growing up like not really completely understanding, you know, snow like it has been in our DNA. You know, we used to be born with skis and skates, poor mothers. But you know, like it's also not them, you know, like a communicating about sustainability. It's more about communicating that, you know, what is the role of snow and ice in our cultural lifestyle and what it means for our nature and why we all have to do our part to keep it like that for the future generations.
May I just add something to that? Now we had to win the topic. Yes, I absolutely agree. I also, if I imagine winter in Finland, I have a different picture than about winter in Austria. But what I also do see in Austrian destinations, for example, the real pioneers, they also do have winter tourism, and parts are more focusing on let's say the soft winter sports. But we also do have regions with alpine downhill skiing, and that's not an issue to be more sustainable. And there are so many innovations done also when it comes to cable cars, to the preparation of the slopes and so on, that people can really be aware of. One region in Austria is actually promoting that you can go from 0 to 3,000 meters only by public transportation that is using green energy. Those are the things that also inspire others. So yeah, downhill skiing is something different than being remote in the forest, and yeah, that's absolutely true. But I do believe there are so many things happening that people are simply not aware of. The same thing as growing up with snow and how that changes now maybe with the next generation. So we have to adapt, and I do believe, and I'm saying the word sustainability for the very last time, it's also all the time about change and adaptation to change and willingness to look forward.
Absolutely.
Anna.
I see a question from Anna. Okay.
She's doing good steps today. And next one question must come from here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Letting you run.
Thank you. Well, thank you for an excellent panel. I've really learned a lot. But I'm going to ask what I think might be a difficult question, and one of those high-level questions. How has your destination, has it changed its definition of success since COVID? And if so, in what way? And how does that relate to your understanding of sustainable? Thanks.
Anyone who likes to comment first on that? Like, has it already changed the definition of success after COVID for
Maybe.
your country? Like, has it been trickled down, the understanding?
Yeah, really good question. I think that also the indicator system that I was earlier showcasing, I think that has also helped to understand the change and the definition. And just before COVID, we were seeing the number of tourists kind of like escalating, that they were still not large numbers comparing to many other European countries, but it also have to be taken. Our infrastructure is different, our size of the population is different, so there were the weak signals already, like people were discussing where we're going. So yeah, I do think that the definition has changed, that there is so much nowadays spoken about also like when is enough, what's the limit, and this is kind of like a new discussion. I think that we have not discussed enough the limits to growth, and also about focusing on quality instead of quantity, because you used to so much just like talk about numbers, and also like the product development has changed. So it has not changed only because we have to adapt to climate change, but it has changed so much that there is completely new kind of enthusiasm and interest in developing low-carbon tools that give back to the community, or that you can even like take customers in the nature conservation project. And this is, I think, that I have seen only in the couple of last years that this is becoming more of a mainstream thing.
Is it also, for example, other indicators such as satisfaction of the residents that have become indicators for success? I'm just looking into some.
Yeah, well, in the indicators, I was saying today that we did this survey in a national level first time last year, and it was our indicator for the community satisfaction was that how many. What is the percentage of the community or the local residents that are happy with the tourism development in the region? And the second one was that how many feel that they can be part of the tourism development. So over 90% felt that they are happy with the tourism development, but only just over half felt that they can be part of the tourism development. And I think that this is a really important indicator for us, because they are happy with the tourism development now, but they clearly, a half doesn't feel that they can have a say, or that if they have a say, that they are heard. And we can't go down from that, because if there is a resistance from the community, you are not a sustainable destination anymore, because then you have exceeded something. And that's so I think that we really need these indicator systems for that, because we can have those signals and take them into consideration in the tourism development.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think in Slovenia, the definition of success in tourism has changed on strategic level, but in practice, we still have a long way to go, because we just published or created a new tourism strategy last year for the period 2022 to 2028. And some of the main indicators, apart from arrivals and overnight stays, are also CO2 footprint and also satisfaction of local people with tourism. And we will take that indicator from the green scheme and from the green destinations, but we are now building this platform to measure this data a lot more. But I think in general public, tourism is still, the success of tourism is still measured in terms of how many overnights were created in 2022 or last year, and how many arrivals. So I think I will be happy with the change of perspective when we will get a question from the media: how was the satisfaction of locals in Ljubljana last year? Not on just how many arrivals we got and how many overnight stays, but what was the satisfaction, how many new employments were created in Ljubljana in 2022 because of tourism. And I think at the moment we are starting to communicate it at the national level, at the Slovenian Tourism Board, but every time we speak to journalists, or every 3 months we get questions from journalists. Just last week we got questions: how happy were you with the summer season? And so not one question about sustainability related issues, but all they were interested in were numbers of arrivals and overnight stays. And of course this is important because it also reflects on the economic success of tourism, which is also part of sustainability, but it is not only this that we should be talking about. And Ljubljana, for example, our capital, they are very much aware of this. And when our PR services asked them about arrivals and overnight stays in the summer months, they got an email back: why are you only asking me this? I thought we were communicating, in a different way. So we will not tell you about these numbers, but we will tell you the results of our survey among local residents and so on. And I think this is the approach that we should all need to take.
Absolutely. Imvi, in Estonia, what's the situation?
What is the success for Estonia? We are about to start our new long-term tourist strategy, and I really much hope that the success criteria there will be much different than ones we are working at the moment. It's still the economic numbers that you were mentioning that we are striving for, but as you have heard from Liina-Maria yesterday and from Rainer Aavik, that we are not the mass tourism destination. Euromonitor number 4 is important, and the understanding on every level is there, so I'm quite sure that the new strategy will also reflect on that. And also from the business side, when it was a situation before COVID and I was approaching some of the hotels and talking about the green key, and they were like, usually they will just telling that in I remember one hotel in Tallinn, I will not tell the name, but they were so satisfied with the results, with the economic results, and they were not just understanding why do they need to obtain a Green Key label. But recently at the tourist conference, I was talking with one attraction, representative of one attraction in Tallinn, and they obtained just recently the Green Key label, and the lady was just eager to tell me that they were so excited, super excited to get the label, and they wanted to do more than the criteria was asking them to do, and I was like, wow. Talk more about that. So I see the change in the business sector, and it comes also both ways, from the bottom up and bottom down. So, but today, yeah, economy is first, especially after COVID. But soon I'm sure we will talk about other criteria,
such as the amount of labels, or the
yeah, we are counting the labels, and yeah, we are doing we're doing that, but this is not the core criteria what we are working with on a general level, not yet.
I imagine if you just count the labels, you're missing out of a lot of things that are happening, so that's only one part.
Austria, as an example. Of course, we also do measure overnights and arrivals. What I do believe that over the last years, and I think that's kind of influenced by the pandemic, but not purely, is that the whole approach towards success is more holistic now. So also seeing, of course, resident sentiment, for example. I do believe that the pandemic made us realize how fragile the whole tourism sector actually is, and how much other industry are also depending on that. So really seeing, okay, we have to think about the people and also measure how happy or how satisfied they are, or what the pain points in that field actually are. We do measure that now, and I also do believe that we not only measure it, but we also do something with the results, which is the other big thing to do. So I do believe that measuring success got more holistically approached, I would say. Nonetheless, of course, the classical numbers that you can also compare to 2019, pre-pandemic, or 10 years ago, they are still there. But I do believe also that you can read more out of them than we used to do. Like, for example, in Austria, the amount of regular visitors coming each and every winter or twice a year is rather high. What chances does that also give us? What are the opportunities? Also when it comes to visitor guidance, to what you can actually recommend them to do, to maybe also discover something new and have a wider spread of activities. So it is measured. Success is also more differentiated, I would say, but moreover, that also gives us really the opportunity to make something out of that. And but it's a long way to go.
Yeah.
Magda from Baltic region.
So
also.
What I may add is the fact that, yes, of course, we still measure the amount of tourists that are, for instance, coming to every bigger airport that we have in the region. But what gets more important now, and this is what makes me personally happy, is the fact that we measure more the number of cyclists cycling around the coast of the Baltic Sea region countries. We measure the increased interest in sustainable boating. So the marinas that are now very green, very sustainable. But this is actually true, that tourists are more aware that there are the less harmful for the environment ways to travel, and now they tend and choose them more and more. And I would say that this is like, it's not a success yet, where it's a long road, as someone already said, but we are slowly getting there. And in the Baltic Sea region, it actually already started before the pandemic. So we were a bit on this route, you know, we're not starting from the scratch from 2020, 2021, but I think this process has speed up a bit now after the pandemic, and this is actually something that I see as one of not so many but positive effects of the pandemic that we face here.
Liisa, yeah.
I just wanted to refer to something that Impi brought up in this topic, like about this company who was first like just happy with their figures because it was economically viable business, and then this changed. And I think that these little stories are the one that, for me, they really motivate to go to that extra mile. And 5 years ago, when we got started, one of the biggest tourism businesses in Finland, they were reluctant. They were not against the program, but they were reluctant because they were saying our travelers do not care about this thing. It's not our, target audience. Then a few years went. They enrolled for the program and made sure that they have various businesses. All the businesses are there, but it was economic choice because they said that we see that this has become the default option. So we, either we are in or we are out, and we don't want to be out. And last week I met the owner, and he came to me and saying that, Liisa, I've been thinking about these things, and it's clear that we need to look after our people, we need to look after our environment, we need to set the bar higher up when it comes to sustainability. And he doesn't just talk about on behalf of his businesses. He's very influential person. He is talking also on behalf of other business owners. And that kind of changed in 5 years. And those are the little victories that make our industry better. And these are what has happened in the post-COVID world.
More of a qualitative success measurement after COVID. I hope that responded to Anna's question. Okay. Any other question here from the public? We have some time over there. Oh.
Sorry, Andreas, I'm going first. I just want to build a little bit of what as well Anna mentioned yesterday. I believe going sustainable is not enough anymore. We hear all about sustainability, but I think that train has gone. I mean, we have to think right now more about doing more and looking into regeneration, for example. And as well, how do we, for example, go forward with resilience or adaptation. So are these things on your radar? And as well, what are you doing, for example, when it comes to regeneration from a destination level or adaptation from a destination level? We heard a little bit from Australia already, from adaptation. Oh, sorry, Austria.
All right.
A little bit different. But yeah, so maybe you can just tap a little bit into that. What are you doing from a regeneration perspective and as well from an adaptation perspective?
Anyone wants to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
And then it's your turn too, because it's a complex topic. So I absolutely agree. Sustainability is not enough. And I would say we are doing everything already for being more regenerative, working on resilience. You can try to, but you still have to get all the stakeholders on board. And as long as we are still, as I also mentioned before, working on a common definition of sustainability, you have just such a huge knowledge gap on, and also like, what is possible and what is not possible. So yeah, I do believe that you have to work towards that. But unfortunately, I I'm absolutely not able to say that we are already doing it with everybody on board, because that would be a huge lie. And it's one of the things that is the biggest challenge, to be faster than the next crisis. I hope we can manage to do that. But it's not a satisfying answer, I know, and it's not a strategy on how to do it best. You just never give up. That's the only thing I'm telling myself every single day.
I can just add, because we do have some front runners, some regions who are already quite, doing quite a lot when it comes to regenerative tourism here in the Baltic Sea region. But yeah, it's less than we need. It's less than it should be. But there is a great will, like, you know, to share these experiences. Like tomorrow, we have one of the speakers during the Baltic Sea Tourism Forum about the regenerative practices, and we will have Skåne region from southern Sweden to share what they're doing already to, like, give an example of the practices that probably majority of us could also implement in our destinations. So just to say, there are a few regions in the Baltic Sea region that are already working with the topic. There is, I would say, common awareness that this is the future, and this future is already here now, so we should engage in these practices. But unfortunately, there is still also a lot to be done, and I would say, well, we are good with talking about the need for regenerative tourism, but what does it mean in practice? This is where we struggle a bit, so every little counts and every little helps, and hopefully tomorrow we also hear a bit of practices. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that that's the really core, to kind of like bring it to the level that what does it mean in practice. And in the Sustainable Travel Finland program, in the beginning, we were already thinking about the regenerative tourism, but it was too early to kind of even introduce the world. Because it was, like I said earlier, at least in Finland, 90% of the tourism businesses are small businesses. So you needed at first to get them comfortable with sustainable development and all dimensions of sustainability and take that holistic approach. So you kind of have to give people space. But like I mentioned, that the program is highly educational, so it has been there. It has been built in without necessarily talking about, like, sometimes you are avoiding the S word and sometimes you are avoiding the R word. But now the time is ripe. And now we have those forerunners, like Magda mentioned, so it's easier. And we've just launched our regenerative tourism educational concept. We have a lot of this education in our STF program. And also as a Christmas present for Visit Finland employees, we have this, just actually yesterday went the invite. So then it's also internal, because we are the ones who are talking with the businesses and destinations, as well as promoting our country, so it makes our work also easier. But what does it come, like with this educational concept that we are offering to destinations and businesses, we need these forerunners. We need to talk through the examples, because then it's much easier to absorb. Because if you start talking from the top and about the system change, it might be 2 months. But if you break it down into practical examples, it's usually easier to understand what's your role and how you can start bringing this regenerative way of thinking to your business.
Yeah. Yeah, also in Slovenia, we are talking about regenerative tourism more in terms of sustainable tourism. I think this word has, at least in Slovenia, has appeared a few years back. Before it was always sustainable, sustainable, sustainable. And now you also hear regenerative mentioned more and more. And Ljubljana, for example, the capital, they are very active in that area, especially in terms of regenerating, local traditions, and a lot of other smaller destinations are also following this suite. But I think we are active a lot in terms of adaptation, what you are also asking about, especially adaptation to climate change. We have a lot of ski resorts in Slovenia that are at lower altitude, so they also already have to adapt and look for strategies that would help them keep their tourism going despite the lack of snow. So here some of them are included in different international projects, and also in the frame of the Green Scheme of Slovenian Tourism. We want every destination in the Green Scheme to develop their own plan of action plan on how they are going to adapt to climate change. And I think this is something very, very important.
Amy?
Yes, I would say that our focus is on onboarding businesses at the moment, and not that much on, we are not that far on development and to focus on regenerative tourism, but I would say, yeah, we have some front runners, and there has always been some of the businesses who have like from the scratch, from the start, they've had a different mindset, and they have had difficulties to adapt themselves to the standard labels. So they have their own way, and they are really nice examples in Estonia who are doing just outstanding job. But on a national level, we are working really focusing on onboarding as much as possible small businesses and the bigger ones in order to have the default option for B2B and B2C to invite people to experience the Estonia in a sustainable way. So I hope that in 5 years or 2 years, I don't know how fast things are developing, we can talk more about the regenerative approach, but at the moment, yes, we are more focusing on building up sustainability on a solid level.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes, just a little short of 5 minutes, for one final question that was pending there. So if it's a short question, or at least that can give a short answer, I think we can do one round.
Doesn't.
Is that
okay? Okay,
yeah.
Great. It is a short question, and I really enjoy it very much because I feel you have so much experience on this whole panel. So I just have this inspiration. If you 5 people would sit on a UN board, just being elected, and you have the full power that your decision, your first decision, is actually executed in all destinations worldwide, which would be this first measure?
Okay.
First measure, that was like, what would be the first measure for the... Okay, like first action. I would probably be the really awful person who would like ruin this industry, because I would start heavily questioning the growth of aviation, which is fueled by fossil fuels. I really think that this is the elephant in the room that we don't want to be seeing. There are various issues, but I think that we don't have simply time anymore to ignore that. We don't have time to wait that the electrification comes or the sustainable aviation fuels come. We are so much talking about like, that we can't just go for the growth. So why does aviation? Why one industry can and sometimes it's just simply unfair that the small tourism businesses have to get certified and go through the sustainability schemes, and at the same time there is an aviation industry that doesn't have to go through the same. So unfortunately, yeah, I would be the one who would kill the party, start questioning that growth.
I would have every country and every DMMO set up a platform with lots and lots of data measuring, environmental criteria and social criteria, and just someone operating with raw data with numbers, and then another person taking care that this data would be interpreted in the right way, and dream up measures on how to address difficulties that show through this data. And in Slovenia, we're all about data lately.
Thank you. Imbi.
I would build a Rail Baltica already.
Sorry?
I would build Rail Baltica to connect all the Nordic countries with Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make
it
an
should
impact.
be ready next year. Its time is running up.
So speed it up. Yeah.
Putting people and nature back into the focus, and not everything that is added to it, because that's the beneficial parts of tourism, but really coming back to what it is about. People encountering people, and people seeing places that is enlarging their own horizons, putting that back in the focus.
Yeah, not to go again with the aviation, I would say I would make people measure their carbon footprint, like in every aspect of tourism activity they perform, and also this goes to tourism industry, because I assume some people would be very positively surprised how great they are performing, and this would empower them, especially the small businesses, even more, and others maybe would be a bit ashamed and would take this into consideration to decrease their actions, or at least transform their actions into more green and sustainable.
Great. I think that brings us to the end. Lunch is waiting, but let me thank this great wealth of experience and knowledge that have been willing to share with us a little bit of everything they know. I think we've been incredibly lucky that we have all of you on stage. Talk to them every more and give them a round of applause. Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you so much.